when I was talking with Adam, he was talking about the end of the year and that it had been a challenging year for a lot of people. And that we're moving into another new phase of our time as human beings on the planet and as individuals. So that's what I'm going to be speaking about this evening, which is about how we can move from the place where we feel stuck, where we feel like we're not able to create at the level and at the quality that we want in our lives, and move to healthy boundaries. Because I think once we decide how to set healthy boundaries for ourselves, that can then spread to the rest of the world. And it starts from within. And one of the things that I noticed when I was young is people who had a sense of entitlement. They expected that things should be the way they asked for it. They did everything they were supposed to, and it was supposed to happen exactly as they thought it was going to. And I watched them, and I was very curious about that. Because my tribe, the people that I grew up with, the people that I resonated with, they had a sense of compassion, generosity. They didn't want to take too much from anyone. They wanted to give. And when they didn't receive what they expected, they found ways to come to a place of acceptance with that. And I didn't understand where the conflict was, because it seemed that the people that had this sense of entitlement were getting the things that I thought I wanted. The relationships, the opportunities, and I was confused. I thought, well, why is it that the people who have a sense of entitlement are getting everything they expect? The people who are coming from love and generosity are going, hey, my pockets are empty. And what I got back from the universe, from within, was that they know that they are worthy and deserving. And you are worthy and deserving and do not understand that. And I went, oh, wow, got it. So just because they believe they deserve, they receive. And when I decide within myself that I do not deserve, I do not receive. And I decided that there's a little bit of a difference in this world between two words that we use pretty interchangeably. One is selfish, and the other is two words together, self-centered. We tend to use them as if they're the same thing. In my world, I think there might be two different ways of looking at it. Selfish people, in my experience, take in the love, the light, the energy that is the universe, and they hold on to it. Because there might not be any more. There might not be enough. And maybe I need a little of yours too. And they hold on because of fear. I believe that people who are self-centered take in that same love, that same light, and they fill their own souls. They rejuvenate their own spirits, and they give that out to the world because they know that their source is infinite. And therefore, they don't feel that sense of fear, that sense of need to hold on. And they know that there's plenty to go around. So in order to become self-centered, that means we must rejuvenate. We must recharge our own internal, emotional, spiritual batteries first. And when we make the choice to do that, for a lot of people, that's difficult because they think that anything they take is taking away from someone else. They feel that when they're bringing things to themselves, that somehow they're depriving the rest of the world. And so my suggestion is that, first of all, we have to take care of ourselves. Because just like you can drive around in town with a quarter of tank of gas, you can still get where you need to be. But you have to stop for gas more often. You have to go pay the cashier. You have to pump the gas. And if you only put in a quarter of tank of gas, that means there's a lot of your time in your life that isn't really about going where you want to go, doing the things you truly want to do. It's going through the motions just to get enough to make it by to the next step, and that's it. But I feel that when we take the time to rejuvenate, to truly recharge our own emotional, spiritual battery completely, going on a full tank, that we become much more effective, that we can do a lot more in any given moment. And within that, we can feel a greater sense of our own value. Now, the other part of self-care is forgiveness. You can forgive the rest of the world for all of the indignity, for all of the betrayal, for any of the things you feel were not fair in your life. But first, we must forgive ourselves for the choices that we made that we regret to this day. And the people that we trusted, even though something inside of us said, I think they might be out for themselves. Something inside of you tells you that, but you go, oh, no, they love me. They're my family. They're my partner. They're my friend. And so we ignore things. And after a while, when we get depleted by people not doing what our internal voice said what they were going to do, when they do those things, we go, maybe I shouldn't trust myself. Maybe I don't have very good intuition. Maybe I'm not very perceptive. And so when people teach us not to trust ourselves, that is probably the most damaging gift that they can give us. So how can we move to a point where we can receive on a higher level? Well, I believe that we need to be strong, because our strength is what helps us to understand, first of all, ourselves and the world that we live in. Second of all, we need to be flexible within that strength, because when you're strong and narrow-minded, it is difficult to achieve anything in this world, isn't it? And the third aspect of self-care is balance. And that's where the flexibility and strength come together. Because when we have balance, we know when to offer help, or when it's time to stand back and let people have the experiences they need to have. So that's not always the easiest thing to do. Fear is the darkness. It constricts things. And out of fear grow all of the challenges that we face in this world, whether they're internally as individuals or as a species. Because from fear, we become angry, we become greedy, we become jealous, because we're not going to get what we believe is ours. We're not going to be able to hold on to the things that we feel are important. And so fear is a constrictive energy. Love is an expansive energy. So how do we expand the conduit with which we receive love and light in this world? How can we make ourselves more open? Because the universe doesn't say, you only get this much, does it? No, the universe is infinite. It loves us because we're an ongoing, ever-evolving, integrated experience of that which is. It has an infinite amount for us to receive. But it's how much we expand that conduit that decides how much we can receive. Love, light, healing, abundance, any of the things we feel that we're lacking. And when I was a young boy, we go to freshwater ponds, and sometimes I would just start walking in circles in a pond. And I would walk a little bit faster, a little bit faster, and a little bit faster, and eventually what I noticed is a whirlpool will begin spinning in the same direction I was going. And it became easier to make the circles in the water because now the water was going with me. And I watched the whirlpool. And then I would stop, and I would feel the pressure of the water going the direction that I had got it going. And then I would start going the other direction. It was harder because the water was spinning the other way now. It was a little bit harder to walk. I was like, "Rah." And I looked down at the whirlpool. The whirlpool still spinning the way that it was a minute ago. Took a couple more laps, finally get going, and then the whirlpool would almost stop. It would be just straight. Not any bend in any direction. And then as I kept going the other way, suddenly it became easier to go this way. Suddenly the whirlpool started going with me, and it became easier to go in a different direction. I believe that that's how energy works in this world. That many times we're going in one direction, and the universe isn't going, that is a good direction, that is a bad direction. The universe just supports us. So if I'm walking clockwise, the universe goes, right on, clockwise, here we go, here's the whirlpool, let's do it. You want to walk counterclockwise? The universe says, excellent, let's go that way. But what happens is when you're used to walking in one direction, when you have the whirlpool going in one direction, and you stop, you feel resistance. And most of us are taught when we feel resistance, we must be doing something wrong. We must not be doing it right. And then we start walking the opposite way. And as soon as we start making changes in our life, as soon as we start trying to make things move in a different direction, what do? A lot of us turn around and we look for some kind of input, some kind of feedback. Am I doing this right? Did I make the right decision? You look down, whirlpool, still spinning the other way. You're like, okay, maybe this didn't work. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Maybe I shouldn't be going in this direction. It isn't until you continue with that decision, with that intention, that the world starts to move in a different path. And you see it starting to support you. You start to move more smoothly in that direction. Things become easier for you and flow with a different sense of purpose and momentum. So sometimes the feedback that we need the most is not there. Not because it's being withheld, because the changes that are taking place cannot yet be seen, because they've taken place on the interior aspect of us first. The other part of being able to receive and widen the conduit with which we receive is quieting the critical mind, which can be very difficult. Some people are critical of others. Some people are more critical of themselves than anyone else on earth could ever be. Some people are so good at being critical, they will self-criticize before you can get to them. So whatever you're going to say to me to tell me how much I suck, I will tell you more and faster. I can do it better than you. I guarantee it. So quieting the critical mind can make a difference, because when we are still, when we are open, that is when we seem to receive at a higher and clearer level, a different frequency. And the thing is that when we redistribute the boundaries in our lives, when we start trying to set healthy boundaries to recharge our own battery, to feel fulfilled within ourselves, what happens is, a lot of times the people around us that we want to support us are unable to do so. Why? Because let's say that the space from here to you, sir, what's your first name? Alcid? Alcid, the space between you and I'll be me, you be you. It just seems easier that way. Now, how the distinction is between the Alcid and I, for a lot of times, for a lot of people, is right about here is my responsibility, and all the rest of it is the other person's responsibility. Now, Alcid may live like that all of his life and realize that it's an 80-20 split. Everybody else in the world is due for 20%, I have to do 80%. So what happens when you start saying, you know what? I want healthy boundaries. I want balance in my life. So you start moving the boundary over so that it's more equitable. Now, Alcid's like, this is good. Now I'm only responsible for half of it. Instead of 80%, I'm liking it. Everybody on this side is usually, hey, what are you doing? This was working really well. What the hell are you doing? Why are you moving the boundary? So the people you expect to support you and give you positive feedback are often the ones that are going, I don't think I like this new plan. So just be aware that sometimes the feedback we get is not because we've made an incorrect choice or that we're wrong. It's because sometimes it takes a while to adapt to change, regardless of how open-minded you are and how spiritual you are. Now, when we're stuck in a transformative process, I think life teaches us through nature again. If you've ever noticed the life of a caterpillar, its life is clinging and eating. All it does is cling and eat. That's all they do. Now, if you were to walk up to a caterpillar and say, hey, one day you are going to float on soft breezes and suck succulent nectars, it would probably let go with most of its little arms and laugh and point and go, you do not know what you're talking about. Then, as it proceeds in its life, it finds itself in the chrysalis, in the cocoon, alone, going through major physical transformation. If you were to enter the cocoon with the caterpillar and say, hey, those soft breezes and succulent nectars I was talking to you about, they're even closer now than they were last we spoke. It would probably say, you know what? I would rather be alone and in pain than listen to this. Get out of my cocoon. It is not until it emerges from its cocoon and raises its wings and finds that soft breeze and lands upon that flower with the succulent nectar that it then truly realizes the value of the change that it's been through, the isolation that it felt, the change that it didn't understand, but still was compelled to be a part of. And that is true for us as well. Because when we understand our authentic selves, at that point, we have a gift that will help us to have all that we feel that we are missing. So check when you are being authentic in all aspects of your life, your relationships, your business dealings, the person at the grocery store, the post office, the dry cleaner, the gas station. If you find yourself biting your tongue, you're probably being inauthentic. If you find yourself filtering yourself, walking on eggshells to make sure that they don't hear something that may frighten them or upset them. I'm not saying you should be cruel with your truth, but I think you need to check every time you find yourself putting those filters on, letting the critical mind tell you they won't understand, they won't love you, they will run away, they will abandon you. That's how we check to see if we're coming from that authentic place. And the thing is that when we look at the world and we say, wow, it needs to change there. We need peace in the Middle East. We need to feed the starving people of the world. We need to stop polluting and taking advantage of our resources on this planet. I believe all of those things. But I believe that that change starts within us. So find within yourself that ability to own your true value, to be authentic every day in every way. And I guarantee you that your world will change forever. And I believe that that is what the coming years are about. Individual understanding, individual change that creates a change for the better for the world that, again, we are an ongoing, ever-evolving, integrated experience of. Thank you guys for your time, your energy, and your love. Namaste.